The movie starts showing the future Earth, where now the Earth's ecosystem is destroyed due to a deadly virus. From trees to animal, every life form is dying continuously, although scientists from all over the world are trying to fix this situation. But even after so many years, they could not do anything, and now everyone is starting to feel that if humans want to save their species, they have to leave Earth and shift to another habitable planet. Now here is shown a scientist, Dr. Steve, who was leading a special project Gemini. In fact, Dr. Steve along with his fellow researchers discovered an ancient object with an advanced engine that could make any planet's atmosphere somewhat habitable. Scientists named it Sphere. Now it has been on the early Earth for several billion years, meaning that someone must have placed it here several billion years ago. Now even the researchers do not know who did this. So now Dr. Steve's team has made another exact copy of this sphere together, and they have also found a new habitable planet to test it. Now they decide that they will go to this new planet and terraform its environment for humans, and then that planet will be the second home for humans after the end of Earth. There they will use this sphere for this deep space travel. Now Dr. Steve with his team is going to go to this new planet where they have to install this sphere, by which the environment there will become like Earth, and then the government will shift all humans there. Now on Steve's team was Peter, Leona, and David. They will also have expert pilots Ryan, Richard, and Frank, although Steve's wife Amy did not want him to go on this mission, and she even comes to stop him on the last day. But by now it was too late and their spaceship was already launched. Actually, Amy is a doctor and she is currently trying to create a vaccine for a virus that is spreading across the Earth. That's why she wanted to stop Steve, but Steve doesn't want to rely the vaccine and he went on this mission. Now in space, Steve and Peter were checking the engines to make sure they were working properly, as their ship would soon open a wormhole in space, and from there they will enter the other solar system. Although they did not notice that some cracks are coming into his sphere, there now all the astronauts in the control room were ready to open the wormhole and jump into it. Pilot Frank warns everyone that this is the first time they are opening a portal in space, so everyone needs to be careful, and they all nervously open the wormhole and start to enter in it. The entire space-time around them was being bent, so all the equipments of the ship started malfunctioning. All the astronauts were also unconscious during this process, and their ship now crosses the wormhole. Now after some time, when their whole ship was stabilized, they see that their ship is in some unknown part of the galaxy, and they were just in front of an unknown planet. Everyone wondered how they got so far from their destination point. Steve removes his crew member Peter from his position because he thinks Peter must have made a mistake in entering the coordinates. However, according to Peter, he didn't do anything wrong and he wants to check the engines once to make sure there are no problems. But Steve tells him that he must have done something wrong, otherwise they would have been in the right place, and now their whole mission is ruined. The hopes of the entire humanity were attached to him. Now Steve along with his crew members tries to find out that where exactly they are. Everyone was just checking when their alarms started ringing that something is coming towards their spaceship, and this object was none other than Peter's body. Peter went to check the engines a while ago despite Steve's disapproval because he was confident that he didn't make any mistake in entering the coordinates. But how did he die now? The rest of the crew members say that Peter may have taken his own life because of the regret of his mistake, but one member, Leona, doesn't trust them at all because she was with Peter for the past 8 years. Now Steve says there is nothing they can do and first they have to think about what to do next. By now, the rest of the scientists has extracted the data of this new planet and found that this planet can also be made habitable if the amount of oxygen in it is increased. Now Steve comes up with an idea why not they should leave the test planet and make this new planet habitable with the help of this sphere. He orders his companions to land on this new planet wearing the suits and then install their sphere and begin the process of changing this planet's environment. Although both pilots Ryan and Richard are not happy with Steve's decision because they don't know anything about this planet and how dangerous it can be. However, Steve stuck to his decision because everyone on Earth is dying anyway and they need a new home as soon as possible. So he was willing to take this risk despite everyone else's disapproval. And from here it is decided that only Richard will stay in orbit here in the main ship, and all the other astronauts along with Steve will sit in a small shuttle and land on this new planet, where Richard will continue to guide them from the main ship. But now, as soon as the shuttle entered the orbit of this planet, a strong blinding storm started. This causes the entire shuttle to shake and they have to dump one of their fuel tanks to avoid their crash on the surface. Although after that somehow they land on the surface. Steve recalls how he gifted his girlfriend Amy a bracelet made from the same sphere's components before he left Earth. But Amy threw it in anger as he was leaving her. Now we see in present, after landing, Steve informs Richard above that their shuttle has landed safely and that their shuttle is not significantly damaged. But after one fuel tank is ejected and now they don't have enough fuel left to return to the main ship in space. So after completing their mission, Richard has to come down to pick them up, for which everyone is worried. But Steve says that they have to stay here and transform this planet anyway, so they should focus on their mission first. Now his plan was that he would go from here with his sphere and other equipment to the nearby cave and install the sphere there, where everyone has now set out for their mission with all their preparation. Although they didn't realize that a strange liquid was coming out from under the sphere until now. Now all the 5 members leave the shuttle and start moving towards the nearby cave. and after setting up the sphere and the rest of his devices there, Steve thanks everyone for trusting him, and now maybe they can make the planet habitable. After some time, when the process of the sphere starts, Ryan says that they should go back to their shuttle because the process will take a long time. Now when they go back in the shuttle, Richard, who was still in orbit, reveals to them through the transmitter that he inspected his entire ship after they went into the cave, and he's got a weird liquid all over the ship. He also found a video of Peter that he had recorded before he died, and now Richard plays it for everyone else. Peter was saying in the video that he would check the engines to prove that he didn't make any mistakes in entering the coordinates, but while he was checking the engines, he was attacked and the video footage stopped. Now everyone was scared to see what happened. Richard from above gives them their theory that since they didn't know anything about this sphere, this life form must have originated from this sphere. Now all the members from below warn Richard that the life form may still be in the main ship and that's why he should stay safe, but Richard reveals that he's traced the life form. It's not here in the ship, rather, it has landed on this planet with their shuttle, so now they all have to be careful. Richard names the new life form Trojan that is born from this sphere. Now no one knew what this Trojan life form wanted from them, and they even don't know anything about this sphere. Then they start getting data that the sphere they had installed in the nearby cave is now malfunctioning and making the environment even more worse. After hearing this, Ryan angrily says that from now on he will not listen to anything from Steve, and since then he declares himself the commander instead of Steve. Leona says that Steve only wanted the good of humanity, but Ryan replies that if it had happened, Peter would have been alive. He died because of Steve. In fact, Steve already knew that there was a life form coming out of this sphere that could be a threat to them, but he didn't tell anyone about it until now. And from here it is revealed that when Steve was doing experiments on this sphere on Earth, he saw this Trojan life form, but he didn't tell anyone about it, and now everyone else knows Steve's truth with that video footage. So Ryan says he won't risk going back to the sphere again. Now, after Ryan refuses, Steve goes to see David alone and says that we should go to the cave and check out the sphere. At first, David refused, but Steve reminds him that everyone on Earth is dying and this mission is their last hope. So David agrees. The two go back into the cave with their suits and weapons on and find that the sphere is working well. Now Steve quickly begins to change the sphere's settings to make this new environment suitable for humans. David then tells him that he sees the same Trojan life form coming towards them, so they have to go back now. But Steve wanted to complete the setting of the sphere here first so that everything would go according to their plan, and after a little discussion, when that Trojan life form came very close to them, they started running away from there through the cave. They had to reach their shuttle as soon as possible, and the two eventually go into the shuttle somehow. Now at the door, Ryan scolds both of them that why did they went to the cave again despite his prohibition, and now they have brought this Trojan life form back to the shuttle, which causes Ryan to punch Steve in anger. By now, alarms had started ringing everywhere, meaning that the Trojan life form has entered the shuttle. On the other hand, due to the ringing of the alarm, the rest of the members also wake up. Leona panics and sees what happened suddenly, that then Frank comes from behind and tells her everything that alien life forms have infiltrated their shuttle so they have to be careful. Both go to the laboratory room to escape but the alien life form was hiding there, so Frank now throws Leona out to save her life and Leona runs away hearing Frank's screams of pain, meaning that Trojan has killed Frank. Leona rushes over to Steve and everyone else, who are now covering themselves with metal on all fours to avoid that life form. Ryan was constantly being angry at Steve because that life form had left shuttle with the sphere but Steve went back into the cave and the alien life form came back into the shuttle behind them. Now they notice that the entire shuttle's CCTV cameras and communication devices have been damaged, meaning they will no longer be able to trace that alien life form. Also, now they can no longer contact Richard in the main ship due to the breakdown of the communication device. Now Steve notices that this alien life form is a bit very intelligent because it entered the shuttle from the same spot that was slightly damaged during landing. So he says that all this is happening because of alien life form, and he will save everyone else's life. So despite the risk, Steve goes out on his own to repair all the cameras and communication devices so he can trace the Trojan again. Steve hides alone and quickly fixes the cameras and communication devices, and David tells him on the radio that Trojan is headed his way so Steve needs to get back quickly. And this time Ryan also helps Steve and they bring Steve back to the safe zone. Here they recover the cameras but the Trojan was still behind them. They start to make a plane. How can they destroy it? Now Steve has a plan and tells everyone that they have to get the Trojan out of the shuttle with behind them. And then they will start the shuttle and burn it with engines thrust and seal themselves inside. Here according to the plan, Steve will take the Trojan out behind him and Leona and David will see the shuttle from inside one by one. And finally Ryan will take the Trojan into the main corridor and will burn it. Now they start taking out the Trojan according to their plan. And their initial plan works where the Trojan sneaks out behind Steve. But at last time their system did not start and there was danger of Trojan coming back. So Leona now goes out on her own to stop this alien lifeform Trojan. Then David finally starts the engine but Leona is in front of the engine and she is killed by engine's thrust. While Steve, who who had the alien life form behind him, tries to get in through another way, and with David's help, he is now safely came back inside the shuttle. However, one of the tentacles of the Trojan was cut off while the hatch was being closed, which also injured David, so David now rests and Steve is inside the lab testing this alien lifeform tentacle. He had to find out how these alien lifeforms behaved and what they wanted from them. Now Steve researches the tentacles and discovers that it is actually a bio-robot with a very advanced defense mechanism, and because David was infected by this alien lifeform, he tells Steve that his blood can help stop the virus spreading on Earth, that is, it can use to make an antidote. Now Steve remembers that when he changed the sphere's settings, he found a bracelet-like piece there, so he contacts Richard in the upper ship and asks him what the positions of the stars here will be 4 billion years from now. Now the Richard calculates and shows the picture to Steve. The position of the stars will be the same as the current Earth, and here comes the biggest twist of this story. Steve and Richard are shocked to know that the planet they are currently on, the one they were trying to terraform, is none other than Earth, their home planet. But 4 billion years ago, when there was no life form on Earth and the environment here was not suitable for human habitation. That is, when they jumped into this wormhole, their spaceship accidentally jumped into time instead of space, and they all time traveled 4 billion years ago. Steve had understood all along that the sphere he had just placed in this cave would be discovered by his past version after 4 billion years. Now Steve tells Richard that they have to send this vaccine information to Amy in the future so that she can save everyone on Earth in the future. But now the problem is, how can they do it while they are still in the past, and how can they transfer the formula of antidote of this virus into the future? Now Steve remembers that he gifted a part of the same sphere to Amy, so Steve will now code this antidoted information into it, and one day Amy will remember him and notice this information on her bracelet. Then Steve quickly writes a message on a piece of the same sphere. Steve looks outside as Ryan is building a bomb to blow up the same sphere in the cave. Steve says that they should detonate this bomb in this shuttle so that the Trojan entity also ends up here. That's when David from above, who is infected by now, shoots Ryan and shoots a hole in the shuttle as well, from which the Trojan entity that was outside had entered. However, Steve was already prepared and he activates the bomb and rushes out. And with the blast of the bomb, now that alien lifeform also ended there, so even Steve had only a small amount of oxygen left, so he rushes to the sphere and leaves in it the bracelet on which he wrote the antidote formula. He knew that this sphere was going to stay here for the next 4 billion years, which will be discovered in future by Steve's past version, and the same piece will be gifted to Amy by the past version of Steve in the future. So he hoped that one day Amy will notice this bracelet and she will decode antidote formula, after which Steve runs out of oxygen and he dies. So it is now shown in the future when one day Amy finds the same codes on Steve's bracelet and she uses it to successfully make a vaccine. Amy finally made the antidote to the virus and saved the world from extinction. Now some time later, Amy gives birth to Steve's baby who will live in a safe environment. And with that, the movie ends here. If you like this video, please subscribe this channel.